What if history remembered the wrong villain? Welcome to Tea House Dives, where every drama has something worth appreciating. Before Lady Kang was executed, history had already decided she was guilty. A red star appeared in the sky. Famine spread across the nation, and an entire kingdom blamed one woman for the collapse of Joseon. But episode 1 of My Royal Nemesis quietly asked an important question. Was Lady Kang truly a villain? Or was she simply dangerous to the people in power? Because underneath the fantasy romance, this episode is really about propaganda, survival, and what happens when history itself becomes a weapon. I think this might be one of the strongest first episodes I've seen in a long time. This episode is titled The Vixen and the Beast. Right away, the drama gives us two vicious labels. Lady Kang is introduced as a dangerous seductress who brought disaster to the kingdom. Meanwhile, Segi is introduced through a violent, viral deepfake video that paints him as an unstable, shable monster. What I love about this episode is that the drama immediately starts questioning those narratives. The more we watch, the more it feels like both characters are trapped inside identities created by other people. One of the most important scenes in this episode actually happens before the story even begins. The drama opens with Annals of the Joseon Dynasty, and this detail matters a lot, more than viewers might realize. These were real historical records that documented royal life, politics, debates, and royal decrees. Historians secretly recorded everything happening inside court. Even the king himself was not allowed to read the records while alive. So when the drama frames episode 1 like an official historical archive, it immediately creates a feeling of legitimacy. It feels factual, permanent, untouchable. But the important thing is, official history is not always the same thing as truth. And this episode quietly begins exposing that difference. Because Lady Kang barely gets a voice in the historical record. She's introduced through accusations, through rumors, through political language. Other people define her before she even speaks. And later in the museum scene, we discover something devastating. The plum blossom painting she created before her death was credited to the queen instead. History literally erased her authorship. Even her identity disappears. And I think that's one of the central tragedies that we see in this episode. Lady Kang was not only executed physically, she was erased historically. This episode constantly links Lady Kang to the red star in the sky. In modern times, we might see that as coincidence, but during the Joseon era, celestial events were treated as messages from heaven. The king was believed to maintain harmony between heaven, earth, and the people. So if disaster appeared, famine, plague, drought, a red star, people believed it meant something in the kingdom had become morally corrupt. And Lady Kang becomes the perfect scapegoat, especially because she broke the class hierarchy. She rose from low birth all the way to the rank of bin, the highest concubine position beneath the queen. That alone would have threatened the nobility. She didn't just gain favor, she disrupted the social order itself. And what's fascinating is how the drama parallels this with Segi and the modern world. Lady Kang is destroyed through rumors and omens. Sege is attacked through viral media and deepfake videos. Different eras, same public spectacle. Both are judged before they can defend themselves. One of my favorite scenes is Lady Kang painting plum blossoms while her execution order is being read outside her door. Politically, chaos is erupting around her. Ministers are demanding punishment. Palace officials are waiting with poison. But inside the room, she paints. And the symbolism here is incredible. Plum blossoms symbolize resilience and endurance. They bloom in winter while snow is still on the ground. They survive harsh conditions. And Lady Kang herself becomes that winter blossom. Everyone outside treats her like a monster. But inside the room, the drama frames her almost poetically calm, elegant, human. And one detail I really loved is that her hands began trembling after she finishes painting, which reminds us she isn't fearless, she's terrified. She simply refuses to let the court see her break. Then she says, flowers that blossom on a gentle spring day are never enough to content the heart. And to me, this line perfectly captures her character. Ordinary flowers bloom safely in spring. Lady Kang blooms in winter, under pressure, under hatred, under impossible conditions. One scene I found especially interesting was the king gripping the cushion of his throne while the ministers pressure him to completely purge Lady Kang and her supporters. What's important here is that the drama hides his face. We never fully see him, which makes him feel less like a person and more like an institution, a symbol of royal authority. But despite that power, the scene actually feels incredibly tense. The ministers continue pushing, demanding more punishment, demanding more blood, and the king looks away from them towards the window before telling them to stop discussing the matter. Meanwhile, his hand tightens around the throne cushion, almost like he's forcing himself to remain composed. I don't think this episode gives us enough information yet to fully understand his feelings, but visually, the drama clearly wants us to see emotional conflict. The throne represents absolute power externally, but internally, the king feels strangely trapped. And I think that tension makes the scene much more interesting. After Lady Kang is forced to drink poison, the drama becomes almost surreal. Hail falls in summer, the sky darkens, a solar eclipse appears, and then she wakes up 300 years later. But what I really love is that the modern world doesn't immediately feel freeing to her. It feels terrifying, confusing, violent. She doesn't understand cars, buildings, phones, or modern clothing. Even language has changed. And one of the saddest moments is when she discovers that history remember her as a villain. Children mock her name. Her titles were stripped away. Her painting was stolen. Her story belongs to other people now. She realizes that after 300 years, all that survived of her was hatred. But then comes the rain scene. And this might be the emotional heart of the episode, because instead of focusing on revenge, Lady Kang realizes something much simpler. She survived. I am alive. I survived. That moment completely changes the tone of the story. I really love the chaos of Lady Kang and Sege's first meeting because visually they completely contrast each other. He is dressed entirely in black, cold, structured, corporate. Meanwhile, she arrives in bright green and red hanbok, full of life and emotion. And their entire interaction feels like two completely different worlds crashing into each other. He thinks she's a scammer. She thinks he's a degenerate. They literally start fighting in the middle of the street while strangers film them. But even in this funny scene, the drama quietly keeps its deeper themes. Both characters are being publicly watched, judged, turned into spectacle, which mirrors everything that happened earlier in the palace. By the end, I think My Royal Nemesis becomes much more than just a fantasy romance. It's a story about survival after being erased, about public narratives, about history deciding who deserves to be remembered as human. Lady Kang begins the episode as a historical villain, a vixen, a bad omen, a monster blamed for the suffering of an entire kingdom. But the more time we spend with her, the more the official story begins to crack. And I think that's what makes this episode so compelling. Because sometimes the people remembered as villains are simply the people history refused to understand. Let me know what your favorite symbolism or scene was because this episode had so many details packed into it. Until next time, thank you for stopping by the tea house. I will see you in episode 2.